What's happening, guys? Today is day 5, week 1, Finish the Book Challenge, and today is about words per minute, and we're going to work out how many words you're reading now per minute and how we can move forward. And before we get into that, I want to have a little conversation about the science of change and kind of like the transformation that we're going through right now. And I want you to be honest, applaud you for the massive accomplishments you've already had. We're technically 2 weeks in this challenge with the pre-training and this. And if you're still watching this, I want to say well done, because most people aren't. Most people want change, but I won't put in enough work to do it. But you have. So I want to give you a big pat on the back for doing that, a big pat on the back of staying consistent through this process. And the things that we covered in this week about blast off, which is like when you really want to do something and you really want to make that leap and go forward on that thing, and we blast off, we were excited, we make massive progress, we went through the reading method, and we saw so much transformation, and from there we created a habit. We created a habit of change, like a habit of, okay, we'll do this, and this, and understand habit, and understand the starts and the finishes. And then after that, we create that habit of change, understood how to be consistent about when the hard things come, what are we going to do? And we set those things in advance. And just yesterday, we understood more about identity, about how to have identity, about what you're doing, about the power of changing your identity. And now we're on to words per minute. But this process of transformation, I went through many times. And it's in a very, very similar format. I think this format is really, really good to understand about the process of change, how to make massive progress and how to make this consistent. And because a lot of times people have a blast off moment in their life. They know what they want, they know why they want it, they make massive progress for a couple of days, and it's very, very good, it's very, very exciting, but then they don't have a process to stick with it. I did that loads of times. My first thing, like confidence, I want to improve my confidence, and my process for doing that is getting obsessed with personal development. And I'll be honest, I was doing good for a couple of days, and I'd work really hard, and then I would give up. I got too tired, I got too exhausted. I would focus on something else. I would be depressed, realise it wasn't working, and then give up on it. And then a couple of weeks later, I'd get excited again. I'd watch this video, and I'd keep on going, and I'd be doing all these things, and I'd be very excited, I'd make progress, and then I'd stop. I'd do it again, I'd get really excited, watch some video a couple of weeks later, and it kept on happening. And I want to be honest with you. This was when I was 16, 17, 18. That process about 4 years since that point now. 4 years, almost 5 years now. About 5 years since that point. I've been going up and down, being extremely happy and going to a place that almost depressing and hating myself for about almost 5 years. 5 years I've been up and down, up and down. And each time I went up and down, I would notice, I would look back to my past and go, okay, I'm going up and down those points. Why am I going up and down? Or what things can help me go through the process? And yes, I did have learned about, read an audiobook about listen to an audiobook about habits, listen to a thing about habits, about consistency, got obsessed with Tony Robbins, saying all the stuff he says, it's great stuff, and trying to apply it. But I started staying truly consistent to the process. And what I really learned for the journey, because I learned about habits. Habits are so important. It's about creating a starting ritual and a reward, and creating them so important. Habits, staying consistent, and saying, okay, when things don't go to plan, how will I act? And guess what? I used to say, well, I'd always go to plan. I'd always be unstoppable. I'd always follow through every single time, every single day. I'd follow through. And I'd say that to myself. And have you ever heard the term set yourself up for failure? That's what I did. I would get up at 3 a.m. in the morning, go to bed at 9, 10 p.m. at night. And guess what? For me, I couldn't live like that. I couldn't live like that every single day. And then I would stop it after maybe a week if I'm lucky. And then I hate myself for wasting loads of time, for not doing it, for not being consistent. and then I'd really beat myself up. And to be honest, I'd in quite bad levels, and I'd learn something, I'd get really motivated and try it again and promise to myself and the whole world, this is how it's going to be. And I'd do that, and then guess what? Same cycle would have happened. But you know what I learned in all that process, and literally diving really deep inside, okay, learning about habits, learning about staying consistency, learning about changing the identity. And I was doing all those things massively, and I was still going ups and down. The one thing that I've learned is that was the process. That was the process. I was meant to go up and down, up and down, up and down. I wasn't meant to go in a straight line, everything perfectly. Look on social media, see all these people are like, you mean about like all these doing this, being consistent, always doing 100%, 1,000,000%, never ever failing, never ever feeling down, never ever giving up or giving in. I would see this thing, and then I believe, okay, have to be like that, I have to be like this, I have to get up every single day for my whole life at 3 a.m. and doing all these things without failure ever. And then me believing that, I'd go through the process of ups and downs, and then I'd realise that the ups and downs was my journey. The ups and downs was my course for action, that was my life. This is where I was meant to go, and leading myself here now. And I'll be honest with you, I was ill on Mondays, and that was a week I was ill on Monday, and I didn't take action, which I do regret. And then a couple other days I wasn't consistent, which I made some excuse. But this is the process. This is the process. Now, I'm not saying these things are human. I do want them to change, and I'm working on changing them. But guess what I've learned? Never, ever beat yourself up. Say, Theo, this is not good enough, but don't physically hurt yourself. But I mean, don't feel guilt. Don't, say, how stupid are you, Theo? You know better. Don't beat yourself up too much. Because guess what I've learned? Like, for me, that's not proactive. That doesn't help me get it done. It's just about getting back on that horse as fast as possible. And yes, looking back, seeing where I made up, and for example, seeing where I marked up and set things in place. Okay, when things happen, when I feel like this, just keep moving forward. And don't do it in a negative way, beating myself, saying how much time I wasted, and really being negative. Do it in a positive way and moving forward. And the reason why I want to share this with you and all the things when I basically started to improve my confidence, I was making so much progress in it for a couple of weeks, and I'd dive down and go back up, dive down and go back up with my confidence, with my boxing, and I was like changing my identity to be a vicious person, and I would do good for about a few months. And then guess what? I was all cutting weight, as lean as you could have ever imagine. And then when something would turn out right, I would eat like an absolute pig. I would get up feeling like I want to throw up, and so many different things, because I was so acid in my body and all this other stuff, and ups and downs. But ultimately, I was changing my identity. I knew what was right, I knew who I was, but I just wasn't acting consistent with that, and that made me feel crap. That's fine. And so moving forward, I wanted to share this story with you to kind of make you realise that, look, whatever you're going through, as long as you've got a clear vision about what you want to do and what you want to be, as long as you're working towards that, and yes, you may be having a bad day or a bad 2 days, which you hate, but you have to get back on the horse and you have to see that clear vision and keep on working towards it. And don't say, I'm not this person because you missed a day or 2 days. Keep on consistency, okay? So, today is about understanding your words per minute. And now, why is this really important? And a lot of times we have sort of like, oh, I don't want to see my words per minute. It'll be really less than other people's, and it'll be really, really bad. We're not doing it for that. We're not doing it for them. We're doing it to actually scientifically work out. So so you can finish a book in 30 days, and there's no question asked. You can do it in 30 days, no question asked. So the first thing we want to do, it's a very simple process, but you have to get a timer out. And so basically, before I go through this, we're going to have these numbers, and we're going to say, okay, this is how much I need to read the book, and this is how much time I spend on it, all this stuff, to make sure it's 100% true. And early on next week, we're going to teach you about speed reading, how you can read fast, and we teach the process of that, because I really understand that speed reading is what's called actual reading. speed reading is actual reading. It's teaching you how to actually read. People, because like oftentimes we always get stuck about our own level of reading, and because we get stuck on our own level of reading and never progress past it, learn once how to read and we think that's how to read, never progress past it, we can get bored. Our mind goes off track. So anyway, 2 minutes, you set a timer out, you start reading for 2 minutes, completely fine, complete normal, with complete comprehension. After the timer goes off, you set a little marker for where your line is. Now, it could be half a page, it could be 1 page, it could be 2 pages, it could be 3 pages, wherever. It doesn't matter. Don't judge yourself, and make sure it's not a part of the book where there's a big picture, or don't be silly like that. Pick a good chunk and just start reading it. Okay? So, and then after you do that, you start really reading. So you do that. You do a mark where 2 minutes is like, okay, this is what I've read, and then you take a pen and you pick 3 random lines like bunched together, and you start counting all the words that are in those 3 lines, and then you get that number and you divide it by 3. That's how you know the average amount of words is in a line. Normally it's like 12. Depending on what book it is, 12, 11, 12, 13 or whatever. You divide it by 3, so that's how many like average words are in a sentence. And then okay, let's say the number's 13. So you read 3 sentences, words in 3 sentences, and there's 30. There's like 40 words in, and you divide that number. Okay, it's 13, I think. So it's 13, and then okay, there's 13 words per line. And then you read how many lines there are. Okay, let's say you've done 10 lines. 10 lines out 2 minutes of reading. Okay, you read 10 lines up 2 hours of reading. That is 130 words you read altogether. But you read for 2 minutes. So you have to divide, just all on the calculator, divide the total number of words you've read by 2. And that means if you have 130 words, you would divide that by 65. Yeah, divide that by 65. So your words per minute is 65. Does that make sense? Let me go through it once more so it's more clear. You read for 2 minutes, you understand that. The first step you do after that is you count the number of words in 3 lines. And let's say that number is 40, whatever. And you divide that number by 3, that makes, let's say, 13. And then with that 13, one line is 13 words. You count all you count all the lines that you read. For example, you read 10 lines, then you times 10 by 13, which is 130. Divide that by 2, which is 65. Divide it by 2 because you read for 2 minutes. And you read for 2 minutes, and you want to find out your words per minute. Divide that by 2, which is 65. 65 words per minute. Okay? Now, so that's how many words per minute you have, and I want you just to write that down to save it somewhere, okay? Because we're going to use that later on. But I'm going to do something else now to figure out how much you need to read to finish the book. I want you to work out how many pages you have left to read. For example, you started the book and you're on page, let's say 20 of the book, and there's 200 pages in the book. So you go 20 minus 200, which comes out at 180. There's 180 pages in the book, okay? And now I want you to do something. I want you to divide 100, like the amount of pages you have left in that book, divide the amount of pages you have left in the book by 21. Because 21 is what I say is the amount of days we've got left in this challenge. We've got 3 weeks. 3 weeks. 7, 14, 21. Yeah, 7, 14, 21. So we've got 3 weeks left. A little bit longer than 3 weeks. 3 weeks and 2 days, but let's say it's 3 weeks, so it's 21. Divide 180 by 21. So let's say for example we got 121 pages. Let's say we got 121 pages to go. Wait, what? Let's say we got 120 pages to read. Sorry, my head's maths. We got 120 pages to read before we finish. Okay, divide 120. Divide that by we have 210 pages left to read, and yet we have 21 days. So divide 220 by 21 equals 10 pages left. So that means I have to read 10 pages a day to finish the book in 21 days. Let me go through that because basically maths. So to understand how much you have to read to finish the book, you work out how many pages you have left by taking away the amount of pages you've read from the total amount of pages there are. Let's say you've read 20 pages out of a 200-page book, that's 180 pages. And then you divide the amount of pages left, 180, by 21. It's the amount of days we have left. And so you divide that by 21, okay. Then you have a number. Now, this number could be 10 pages, it could be 12, it could be 7, it could be 4. Now, whatever number is, write that down, and now this is where it's what's called standard. So this is the amount of pages that you really should read a day. And a lot of times they can seem overwhelming for some of us. Oh, it takes me too long to read that. What happens if I fail? What happens to this? What happens to this? Well, I talk about this when I talk about consistency and identity, but burn the boats. You are going to read this amount of pages a day. What's called raise your standards. What Tony Robbins says all the time. Turn your shoulds into musts. Loads of people should all over themselves. I should do this, I should do that, I should work out more, I should read more, I should do that. But they don't do their shoulds. People find always a way to do that musts. So turn the things you should do into musts. Raise your standard. Raise your standard in this thing, and I promise you, what's a massive positive about this is when you raise your standard to this, once you raise your standard, say, this is a must for me to read 10 words a day. And if I can't do it today, if I only read 5 words today, I'm going to read 15 words tomorrow. And that is a must. That's so high on my values, I wouldn't sleep until I get it done. Does that make sense? So it's so high on your values, you would do this, you would sacrifice this. So, and also a really good point of making something really high on your values, making it a must. Link strong reasons to it. Strong reasons of reasoning about identity. This is where identity comes in big play, okay? And so link massive reason to it, and link massive pain to not doing it. Massive pain to not being consistent with reading this, not doing these things, not reading it properly, okay? I hope we got a lot of value from this. So, recap. I talked a lot about my journey, and things aren't perfect, but just make sure, as long as you're doing your best thing you can, it doesn't matter if you fail or fall off, as long as you consistently do the best you can, that is your journey, okay? It's like a spiritual thing. This is my journey. Yes, it's horrible. Yes, these really bad things happen, but this is my journey, okay? And then about finding the words per minute you read, and we talked about that, and then working out how many pages you have to read a day and stay consistent to that. And then read that many amount of pages a day with comprehension and staying to it. And now if you've been through the universal reading method, and I'd highly recommend is to go over it again. Go over part 4 again, basically concept 4, where you say the sounds like ba, ka, da, fa. You would know if you went through it. But go through that again. That will really, really, really help you. Okay, I talk about that, I think, in the live that me and Craig talk about. Let's go over that. Anyway, that's what you've got to do. And guys, this week is about blast off, and now you learned some things to how to blast off and say the habit. And now you have a target of how many pages you have to read. And if you want to finish it earlier, go and finish it earlier. But don't finish it later than that. And then also we have the weekend now. Technically, if you bought the program before the lives, we have weekend now. And for the weekend, I want you to go back and watch any lives that you missed, or any trainings that you missed, or any tasks that you haven't done. Okay, and also catch up on any reading you haven't done. So next week will be about learning how to learn. I'm so excited for that, because learning, basically, a lot of times we go to school and we learn stuff. We learn this, we learn that, but we never learn how to learn. And that's so important, and it's so cool, and I'm so excited for it. And I think it will open your mind to seeing what's possible for you, and growing not only your reading speed, but so many other things. Alright guys, I can't wait for that, and I look forward to seeing you on Monday for week 2, learning how to learn.